Okay, so here's a video where I'm going to go through the answers from your last activity. So if you found anything challenging, these will walk you through the steps. So this was the first question you had. In standard form, you have x squared minus 5x plus 4. Again, we know this is standard form because we have that x squared term. We see a power of 2, so it's standard form. Below we have factored form. We have two sets of parentheses. So the first thing we need to do is identify x-intercepts. X-intercepts are easily identified by factored form. All I need to do here is look at the value next to x. Here I have a negative 4, and in this set of parentheses I have a negative 1. All I have to do is flip the sign. So instead of having negative 4, I'm going to have positive 4 as an x value, and y values for x-intercepts are always 0. So it's just 4, 0. And then the other one, I have negative 1. All I have to do is flip the sign. So instead of a negative 1, it's now going to be a positive 1. And the y values are always 0 for x-intercepts. And that's it. I have my two x-intercepts, 4, 0, and 1, 0. In this case, it gives us a graph to help us out so I can check my work. And I do see here that I have points at 1, 0, and 4, 0, so I did it correctly. Now we're moving on. We need to find the y-intercept. Y-intercepts are very easily found from quadratics in standard form. All I need is that value here, my constant value that has no variable. So I see a variable x here, and then plus 4. 4 does not have any variable, so this is my constant, positive 4. No need to flip the sign when we're doing y-intercepts. All I need to remember is that in a y-intercept, that constant is my y value. So my y value is 4 for the y-intercept, and here the x value is always 0 for y-intercepts. Again, I can check that on my graph. At 0, 4, I should have a y-intercept, and I do. At 0, 4, I see it cross the y-axis here. And those are my answers. Moving on, you guys also had this function h, x squared minus 9, and x minus 3 times x plus 3. Same thing, we're going to identify the x and y intercepts. So x squared minus 9 is standard form because I have that x squared term. Notice how I don't have 3 terms, how standard form usually is written. I don't have a term in the middle just with a regular x to the first power. That's perfectly okay, it's still standard form. And then here I have my intercept form. So first thing, I need to identify my x-intercepts. I do that using intercept form. Again, I have a negative 3 here and a positive 3, so I just need to flip my sign. And instead of a negative 3, I'm now going to have positive 3, 0. Instead of positive 3 here, I'm going to have a negative 3, 0. I can verify that on my graph. At positive 3, I have an intercept, and at negative 3, I have an x-intercept. So I did that correctly in finding my intercepts. Lastly, I need to find my y-intercept. So I'm looking at my standard form here. For a value that has no variable, that's going to be negative 9 here. Most common mistake that you guys probably made, or many people often make, is forgetting the sign and say that the y-intercept's at 9. You must include the sign that's in front of the value. So here that's a negative, so it's negative 9. So my y-intercept is going to be at 0, 0, negative 9. Y-intercepts give you the y value, the x value is always 0, and I can check it on my graph. 0, negative 9. It worked out. It's correct. The last two questions you guys had were with no graph, and these are going to be more of the questions you're going to see in the future without that graph to help you out. So here I'm just given factored form and standard form. So first things first, x-intercepts. I have negative 9. Notice how I'm including the sign in front. And negative 1. Again, notice how I'm going to include the sign in front. Instead of negative 9, I'm now going to have a positive 9, 0. X-intercept, so it's my x value. Y is 0. Instead of a negative 1, I'm going to have a positive 1, 0. Again, it's an x-intercept, so the x value is the number that I'm flipping the sign with. Y value is always 0. And lastly, y-intercept, so I'm looking at my standard quadratic in standard form. The value here without an x value is my y-intercept. I always circle it with the sign in front so I get in the habit of not forgetting that sign. It's positive 9. So my y-intercept is going to be at 0, 9. Y-intercept, so the value I found is my y value. And lastly here, I'm given a quadratic function only in factored form. I do not have it in standard form, but I do still need to find the x-intercepts as well as the y-intercepts. So easy, from factored form we can find the x-intercepts. So I have positive 2 and positive 2. I'm going to flip the sign, and I'm going to have negative 2 comma 0 and another negative 2 comma 0. If you identified this as one intercept, which it is, it's the exact same coordinate, so it's really only 1 point, you could have just written your answer as there's only one x-intercept at negative 2 comma 0. If you want to write both out, that's okay. So now what we need to do is find the y-intercept. To do this, we need to use the box method or distributive property to expand this out into standard form. That way we can identify our constant value, or there's another trick that I'll do next. So first, again, to practice distributive property, if you use this method to expand it out, this is what it would look like. So we have x plus 2 times x plus 2. So I'm going to take my outer term in my first factor and multiply it by both terms in the next factor. So x times x is x to the power of 2. X times 2 is positive 2x. And then I'm going to use my 2 now. So 2 times x is positive 2x, and 2 times 2 is positive 4. I combine like terms and I get x squared plus 4x, combine these two like terms, and then plus 4. So my y-intercept here, my constant with no x on it, is this positive 4 here. So my y-intercept, the answer would be 0, 4. Another trick, if you guys remember from a different video, is at y-intercepts, we know that the x value is always 0. So if I have x plus 2 times x plus 2, and I know that my y-intercept is when x is 0, I can just plug 0 into both x's, and I have 0 plus 2 times 0 plus 2. What is 0 plus 2? It's just 2. So that leaves me with 2 times, again, 0 plus 2 is just 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So using that method without having to expand it all out into standard form, I was still able to find the y-intercept. When you do this, just remember that you do need to still write it as a coordinate point. Y-intercept gives you the y value of the coordinate point where x is always 0. And that's it. So go ahead and check your work. Watch this video again, or certain portions of it if you did anything wrong, to make sure you know how to do this moving forward.